Hello, welcome to Startup to Success with Maria. My guest today is beautiful Mariam Kuregyan, the founder of Davana Law Firm, where they help people with personal injury needs. Mariam, welcome to my show. I am so thrilled to have you today. Thank you for making time.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. This is exciting to be on your podcast, and it's exciting to share stories and kind of understand what's coming into the future for all of us.
Yes. So as you know, I am obsessed with entrepreneurship, and most importantly, I'm obsessed with people that have such successful careers in the corporate world, and then they take that leap and start their own journey. And you are the only person that honestly I look at and think of how well and successfully you've managed to do that. So I'm going to sort of jump in and let our listeners learn about your background and how you came from Paramount and just launched Davana Law.
I think it's always easier to watch from the sideline, but when you walk the path, it's always much more difficult, or it doesn't seem as effortless. But I can understand how from a sideline, it looks effortless, it looks easy. But yeah, I start off talking about, you will relate to this. I start off talking about that we are of immigrant culture, right? When you're an immigrant in this country, there's this symptomology where you gotta be go, deliver, keep your head down and just perform. And I think the immigrant mentality gives you strengths that people think are superhuman, but in reality, it's very difficult to be always delivering at a certain expectation. So when I am an immigrant and when we came to this country, becoming an attorney was really the impossible dream. But once that became a reality, once I passed my bar, it was always my dream to have my own practice. And that dream was always there. But for 15 years, I dwelled on it because I had this internal fear that, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do it. There's so many obstacles. And we could talk about that fear, but I want to slow down a little and tell you that, you know, becoming an attorney, having my own practice was always a dream. And now I'm living that dream. So I'm part of this podcast because I want to motivate and inspire other people who are thinking about launching and putting their best forward, but are afraid because they have this internal fear of, I'm not good enough, or I don't know enough, or I'm a female, whatever it is, whatever those fears are, I want to kind of address them slowly so that our listeners can get motivated and leap into it. Because I think individually, we are all capable of big success. We just have to unleash the internal ability to just do.
I agree with that. It makes a lot of sense. And I think another thing I would love to discuss with you is being a mother and an entrepreneur.
Very difficult.
Adds an extra layer of
very difficult. But look, everything is on the plate. Like, I am an immigrant. English is my third language. I am a mother of 3. I'm also a daughter to my wonderful parents. I need to be an amazing wife to my husband. I need to be a good friend. I need to be a good sibling, and life happens. But those are not things that deter us from doing our best. Those are actually things that help us be the best that we can be. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of women probably do this more than men. We say, well, I'm a mom, I can't be a successful business owner. We just buy into that excuse, but in reality, that's not the case. It's just an internal excuse, allowing you to pull yourself further back. But if you say, I'm a mom, I'm able to multitask, I have 3 kids, I manage my household, therefore I could be an amazing business owner, because becoming a business owner only means that you need to multitask. And for women, that's natural.
Right.
You know, for men, it isn't, but for women, we can do 10 things all at once and they can all be done in a timely manner.
Yeah. And I think, you know, those people that know me, they always find me telling everyone to become an entrepreneur, especially mothers. I love encouraging moms to become entrepreneurs because it's really hard to keep up in the corporate world as a mother and having to go for and ask for permission from your boss every time your kid has a performance at school or is sick or whatever. I don't know. It made me feel like a little kid going and having to ask for permission.
Not only that, I think corporate culture forces you to be very, very rigid. It's probably not intentional. It's just the structure is such that. And it's funny you asked this question because on Monday I did another interview. The same exact question came up. For example, when my first daughter was born, I went back to corporate when she was only 21 days old.
Oh my God.
That's 3 weeks old. She was 3 weeks old. I was still breastfeeding and I went back to work. Now the question is, why did I do that? Nobody forced me to do that. Nobody said, Mariam, you have to be back in your chair. It was internal rigidness that I wanted to keep up with all my peers. I didn't want anybody having the excuse of, well, Mariam is busy having a baby and she's slacking. Those were internal fears. And I forced myself to go back. Corporate hours are very difficult. Corporate deadlines are very difficult. Corporate competition is very, very difficult. You're dealing with best of the best, right? Who's in corporate? Best of the best, very driven people, type A personalities. Obviously, the competition is up here, so you want to keep up with that. But I think it doesn't speak to the family life, that kind of force. And it's constantly conflicting and you're torn between being nurturing and being very driven. So I think when you start your own business, you're in better control of your schedule. You decide which cases or which files you want to take on versus files you do not want to take on. And then you also stack up your own deadlines. And then you feel more fulfilled. And guess what? When you feel more fulfilled as a mother, you literally can move mountains. Don't you agree?
I agree 100%. A lot of people ask me how I manage both of my companies, because as you know, I own Globalfly and it's going to be 5 years that I've had that agency. And I also launched Roma Leaf back in 2019, but I really didn't start pushing that company forward until probably when COVID started, because it's a CBD brand and people are dealing with anxiety and stress. So it was more of a natural product to organically grow. And one thing that I've done personally is break out my time. Like even the days of the week, I'll end up separating, let's say on Tuesdays and Thursdays, those 2 days are fully dedicated for Globalfly. I don't do anything else, nothing that's related to my other company. And then I have days that are fully focused on the kids. And usually actually it's every day after 6 o'clock, I try to dedicate to the kids. But I feel like having that structure in my schedule helps me stick with things and not deal with chaos, and have that. Ultimately, the purpose for me to become an entrepreneur was for me to be able to control my life in a way that works for me. But I think a lot of people fall into that trap where they forget that they need to set the boundaries, ultimately and they have to stick with the boundaries also, whether it's scheduling certain days or time slots for certain things. I would love to learn how you manage to do all of that with 3 kids and work and a husband and parents and all, especially being Armenian, I think, we're so close with our friends and family. Our social lives are insanely fun, but it also could be tiring. How do you manage it all?
I think unlike you, my approach is very, very different. You seem like a very structured person. And by nature, I like to think that I am also a very structured person, but my approach is completely different. I don't segregate. I don't allocate time. I just allow myself to be very present, and I tackle on a daily basis. I tackle whatever I'm able to tackle. So it might be that for example, this morning, I already signed up a new client, spoke to him about his injuries, kind of laid out a plan for him. I gave him my full attention so that I was present. Before that, in the morning, I woke up early and did breakfast with my son, who loves to wake up early. I was also present for that. And then I was able to have a quick staff meeting with my team in laying out what's to happen next week. We also kind of reflected on what we've achieved in the month of July, kind of really quickly. Now we're doing this interview, and then right after this, I just go with what's in front of me, and I try to be present. And I think when you do that, you are doing your best work.
It's more productive too.
It's more productive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but structure is important. I have long range plans. I have short range plans. As long as I meet those targets, I allow myself to say, Mariam, you're on track. You're doing a good job. But I don't force myself. I don't force myself to go back to corporate rigidness.
Yeah.
Because that's what I ran away from.
Right.
I don't want to repeat that mistake. I don't want to become that robot that everybody is expecting me to. Because in my injury, my clients really want to see the human element. I have to be able to slow down time for them and understand their injury, so that when they say, hey, I went to see Mariam, I went to Davana Law Firm, she actually heard my story and she was able to represent me knowing who I am, and then able to transition that hurt, that feel of, I was wronged, onto the carrier who will help us recover financially and emotionally.
That's amazing. And I want to dive into a little bit more about Davana Law and how you differentiate yourself from all the other law firms. I think, what you've accomplished in the last few years, right?
It's going to be 4 years in November. So I'm super excited.
So inspiring. I mean, I love what you've done and what you've accomplished. I have seen you from inception all the way to, so much success now. And it's amazing. But tell us a little bit about the law firm. How do you differentiate yourself from everyone else?
Well, the market is very, very saturated. If you're Armenian, if you're in LA County, if you're in California, period, we have a lot of attorneys. We have a lot of PI attorneys. And, even when I went to law school, PI attorneys are usually looked down upon for a simple reason that there's so many of us. And a lot of times our work product is not what it can be. So we look for shortcuts. And I think the new generation is really trying to change that narrative. Now we're really this new breed of attorneys. We're saying, hey, let's focus on quality versus quantity. And I think that's the trick, really. It's not about having thousands of cases. It's about really retaining those clients who you truly believe are injured and need your help, and then giving them that help. And I think differentiating, if you talk about it, Davana Law Firm, if you come in, you're going to feel like you're our only client from A to Z. You're not a file. You're not a number. We know your story. I know you by first and last name. You're in my Rolodex. I visualize your injury. I get to know you. I sit down with you. We just passed our 1,000 mark. We have active 1,000 injured parties that we're representing. I know every single one of their stories, and not many attorneys can say that, right?
That's a lot.
So, to say I do it all alone is a lie, right? We're a team of 12. Up until 4 months ago, we were all female, but that was not intentional. It's just how it happened. Yeah. A few months ago, we hired our first male attorney.
Oh God.
Because he was the most qualified. Look, we did that because he was the most qualified. That's it. No. There's nothing behind that. But we keep growing naturally because we need this team to kind of make sure every file is nurtured just as if we wanted from the inception date. So if you're injured and if you have a story, if you want to be heard, you come into us and we talk about what we can do and what we cannot do. Being honest, being transparent, being forthcoming is really what my clients love. And that's what we do. And I find that people always know whether you're being honest with them or whether you're lying to them. And I think a lot of firms, especially old school firms, would take that for granted. They thought that maybe because they have this title, they could kind of always be in a leading position. No, right. I let my client be the leader as to what they see their case, transitioning into, but I always guide them. I'm kind of helping them and consulting them in getting them to the right endpoint.
And I think that that's what's important, and it's changing not just in your industry, but throughout all the industries. Like in advertising, for example, transparency from day one was the reason why my firm ended up getting successful, because they loved the fact that we took their money, but we were very transparent as to where it's going. A lot of times we would tell them, hey, if you're doing this advertising, you can pay direct. You don't have to pay us. That way, you know exactly what fee we're charging you. And a lot of marketing firms will take the money up front. And then, whether they're spending half of it or 1/3 of it on the actual ads, no one really knows about it. So for me, transparency has been a key differentiator, definitely. And it has helped me succeed, so I can really understand how in your industry that could be a huge, huge plus.
Because consumers nowadays are very, very aware, right? They know you. This is not dark ages. This, with social media and just, I think globally, as they said, the term I remember you and I went to school, but we were studying globalization.
Right.
The world gradually is becoming smaller. I right now know what is the market like in Russia. I know it, but before we didn't have the tools to know all that. So as the consumer is becoming very, very savvy, we the industry that's now tailoring to the consumer have to be changing with them. And I think transparency is number one priority in any industry, because the consumer will right away catch on the fact that you are hiding something in that corner, and that's going to turn them off.
Correct. That's a really good point. Now, in terms of clients, for example, that are interested in contacting you, like, what is the process? How would they connect with you, other than obviously your website, which you can mention and Instagram? But what's the journey like if somebody gets into an accident and then
So there's the event, right? With my consumers, there has to be an event that triggers their need for me. I always tell everybody I meet, I hope you never need me, because you only need me when it's a difficult time in your life. And I hope nobody that I know or love or care for ever needs me. But life happens. Nobody ever wakes up saying, hey, if I'm involved in a tragic accident today, I'm going to call Mariam. I don't want that thought to be in anybody's head. But life happens. That terrible things happen in life. And when that happens, you're at your lowest and you're not thinking clearly. You're actually focused on the trauma, and you let a lot of things slip through the cracks. So this is what I say, and I bring the example on my own self. If I get injured, the best thing is to consult an expert. And I think of myself as an expert in the area. And you don't necessarily need to consult one person. Just like you get first and second and third opinion when you need medical help, you do the same in legal. Consult as many attorneys as you need. Get that right pairing where you feel most comfortable with that attorney, because it's going to be a journey. It's going to be a process. It's not a one time you walk into Ralph's and pick up apples. It's a relationship. So you need to pair with someone that you're very comfortable with, because it's a very delicate relationship. So the event occurs, let's say you've sustained an injury, you right away do your research. The attorney has to be local, because you ideally want to meet with them in person. With the pandemic, Zoom allows us to be in person. It does not have to be local. So it has expanded my reach. So I now have people from San Francisco. I retain somebody in Washington. I retain somebody in another state. So Zoom has allowed us not to be local, but preferably local, so we can meet in person. The reason you're doing that immediately, don't lose any time, is because you will lose evidence. When we lose evidence in the legal world, you might as well not have a case, right? So it's got to be, you were involved in an accident, tragic accident, retain an attorney right away, preserve the evidence, and document your injury. Those are the things you need to do right away. So best way to do is call us, 818-501-1055. Very simple, 818-501-1055. If you need to do research without calling us, go visit our website, davanalaw.com. Very simple.
Yep.
My name, davanalaw.com. If you want to look us up on Instagram, it's Davana Law Firm. Look us up, see what we do, look at the settlements we've brought in, look at the stories, look at our experience. And if that speaks to you, give us a call. That's not going to hurt you at all. Give other attorneys a call.
Yeah.
And then right away retain an attorney, because there are things out there that you're not aware of that are happening that's very time sensitive, right? In our business, time is of the essence.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't take certain steps within a limited time frame, you essentially will lose your ability to present a claim. And that's how serious it is. I give my clients 4 weeks. If in 4 weeks you haven't done any of those things, you might as well not have a claim.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I always thought a year, you have a year to decide if you want to file a law. I mean,
you have 2 years to present a claim. If in 2 years you didn't present a claim, you will forever lose your claim. I don't care how egregious that injury was. You have 2 years. So let's say if I get injured today, August 13, 2021, then you have 2 years. So August 13, 2022, 2023, and then you lose your claim forever. So 2 years, you add 2 years. But when you lose the evidence and you haven't documented the injury, how do you present a claim?
That's true. That's true.
You have nothing to present, So it's and think about it. You're at your lowest, you're injured. We're in a global pandemic. People around you don't have the tools to help you. So really now, even more so, is important to have an expert by you to guide you. So these are the things I tell my clients, and usually they understand the urgency and they understand the importance of having somebody seasoned guiding them through that process.
Thank you for that. That's super helpful. Speaking of the pandemic, how did that impact your business? My assumption would have been less people are driving, people are outside less, so less injuries, but I'm just curious to know how that impacted you.
Quantity-wise, you're right. People were driving less, so there were less accidents, but severity, just for those people that had to drive, for example, the accidents were much more severe, because imagine we're driving while we're very stressed. We don't know what's tomorrow. We're in sheer panic. We had people who are considered essential workers, people who were working 12, 13, 14-hour shifts. There's exhaustion involved. So the injury aspect of it was still out there. It was less frequent, but it was more egregious. So if you want me to answer that, yeah, quantity went down, but injury severity went up. I know last year they did statistics. Fatality accidents increased dramatically last year. Okay, we don't know why. I think I want to attribute that to fear, to the pandemic. I'm attributing that to the pandemic because people are more anxious, they're more stressed. So that makes them become a little careless with, human beings. So that's what happened last year. We actually expanded last year, even though we were experiencing a pandemic, because I thought it's the best time to do all the things that I wanted to do, but never had the time. So the office was essentially closed for walk-in clients because I was doing all my signups via Zoom. So we took that opportunity and we expanded into the east side. So we added 4 more new offices because we needed that space, and it was perfect timing. So, but the expansion is now complete.
Are you still on Ventura Boulevard?
Yeah, we're actually in Encino. It's 16,000 Encino. It's in the Charles Schwab building. It's a very prominent building. So we took on our next door neighbor moved, so we broke a wall and we just went towards east. So it's very exciting.
That's awesome. I can't wait to visit. I visited the office, right? I believe I have.
You've been to the old office. I don't think you've been to the new office.
I have not. That's why I'm not in Sherman Oaks. That's right. I have not been to the Encino office. And I think you moved to the Encino office right before COVID, isn't that?
Right before, I think, right before, yes.
Okay, I remember that. I do remember that. So I also want to talk about a little bit about hiring. How do you recruit people so that they stay true to your company values, to your values? Ultimately, Davana Law is an extension of you. It's an extension of your mission. How do you ensure that the team that you are hiring continues executing that mission. I would love to learn about your hiring process a little bit.
So team is very important. Anybody that says, I did this, I did that, really, I start dismissing them a little bit, because you are not capable of doing great things without a team, right? And every single growth that I experience personally, I always push it down to my people, because they're the reason we're able to cultivate the following that we have. They're the reason we're able to retain these beautiful clients who need our help. So this is what I do. If I meet and interview somebody, if my gut feeling is true, usually, and if their experience lines up with the requirements, we also do some background personality testing. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It talks about aptitude, your strengths, your weaknesses. We always try and do that. And it usually is a good marriage for the company. So every single person almost that I've retained from get-go is still with us, which says a lot about the company. That means that, you know, we not only talk the talk, but we walk the walk, right? So I could sit here and tell you peachy stories, but if a client comes in and I fall short, my client's always going to feel that. And same goes with the team. My team really believes in my philosophy. That is why we were attracted to each other. And now they see that unfolding behind the scenes. So they stick around and they love what they do. They're passionate. They're probably more passionate than I am. And that's hard to imagine. But my team,
I've seen the passion in your team. And I remember when you first started, and I'm assuming Ani is still with you.
Ani's definitely still here with us. So
it's just so exciting. I like wish that we, you know, sometimes when I look back to my own journey with my, you know, marketing agency and now Roma Leaf, I do wish that I recorded everything, the journey, because it does fly by so fast. And then the next thing you know, you're like, wait, I remember when I first started and hired my first employee, and then I was in my first office, and I don't know, I wish we had time to journal more, but that's actually the purpose of my podcast, is to ultimately, you know, bring on entrepreneurs to inspire others to become entrepreneurs and venture out on their own, no matter what profession they're in, especially nowadays with the ability to get on Zoom and do so much work remotely. I think every professional out there can venture out on their own. They don't need to be in a corporate setting and be unhappy.
But look, I think corporate, to be fair, corporate gave you and me and others
a lot of opportunity,
the discipline, the stamina, the polishing. We all needed polishing. If anybody says that I was born polished, I'd like to disagree with that. You know, the reason you're pushing Aroma Leaf, the reason you're pushing Mobify is because you have that corporate polishing, and we gotta give them that credit. We needed to this day, my best boss was my toughest boss. I learned everything I've learned and I applied today from her. And had she not been tough on me, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. So I want to stop a moment and give
thank you. That's definitely a good, like for me, my when I was employed by Hello Society New York Times, after I resigned, New York Times became my first client. I'm very thankful for that opportunity. I will never forget it. I just, you know, I think when it comes to debating whether you want to take that entrepreneurial leap or not, people sometimes think that, okay, well, corporate is more, you know, consistent, like they're going to get paid. There's no wave, you know, with entrepreneurship. If you're running your own business, there's always that chance of, you know, losing a client or not, you know, it's not consistent paycheck that you're making. And if anything, you make sure that your employees get paid. And if you don't get paid, you're fine. And, you know, so other than a lot of times the benefits of that consistent paycheck, for me, it's always been, I don't know if I see much benefits. Yes, the connections are great and the structure and all of that, but I don't know. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship, and I love encouraging people to just be ballsy and just get out there, have chutzpahs, as the Jewish say it, and just get out there and do it. Be fearless and stop
But
talking
I think to
about it.
be fearless, you have to now have the tools in your toolbox to
Right.
deliver. And I think, you can't just dream about being an entrepreneur. You have to actually navigate towards that with the tool set that you're going to need, right? Like, just because you want to wake up one morning and have a law firm
Right.
doesn't mean
Yeah.
you have to work towards that goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to go to law school. You have to pass the bar. You have to practice. You have to know what you're doing. I think the doing is really the easy part. It's getting to that point that's difficult. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get hung up on that is, that it's hard to tell, am I ready? Or do I need more tools? I think, and that is what we're struggling with. At some point, it's scary, but you got to make that leap. You're ready, but you got to give yourself enough time to become ready and make that leap. So our conversation here today is for those who think they have enough tools within their toolbox, make that leap, the rest will happen. But also there might be some in the audience that are envisioning this career, but they haven't done the work yet. And they also need to do the work. Like, having a balanced family is work, right? You can't just say, oh, I have 3 kids and that's it, and not be present. You have to work towards that. You have to create those relationships. Same with business. You have to have the tools to be able to deliver the dream that you're looking to deliver.
And I can speak to that because I know I wanted to have my own marketing agency since 2012 after I sold my shoe company. I knew that sales and marketing were my favorite part of running my business. And when I thought of doing something that's a little easier to be able to raise my daughters, I knew that having a marketing agency would make me very happy. But I didn't start the agency until 2016, 2017, early 2017. And part of that reason was I felt like I wasn't ready. And you know what I did? I ended up going and getting a job at an agency to get ready. And I worked my butt off. I mean, I worked so hard at that agency. I was putting in 12 to 18 hours a day and building someone else's agency. But that's where I learned everything. And then I got recruited by Hello Society, New York Times, where I took on that job too, because I wanted to learn influencer marketing. So I made sure I covered all my bases and learned everything I needed to learn and had enough experience to be able to go out and venture out on my own. So to your point, certain professions, you can't just get out there and say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to open up my law firm. No, you got to get your list of things done, your check marks done before you get out there and do it. Otherwise, no one's going to really trust you with their, $100,000 campaigns, or in your case, with their important cases that could potentially, make a difference in their lives.
Yeah. And to that point, I think if you and I today are having a very honest, candid conversation to help those who are listening, we have to highlight the difficult conversations, because everybody can talk about the easy. Yeah, I'll go out there. It's great. It's easy. But like you're saying, oh, I thought about doing marketing because it's easy. Well, Maria, it might be easy for you because you're good at it, but it's a very, very difficult task. Most business owners, such as me, I outsource marketing because that's like a foreign language to me. It's not easy. You might think legal is hard. That's easy for me because that's my expertise. So it's not necessarily easy. It's just, it comes easy and natural to you because those are your strengths and those are your stellar abilities. But I think if you and I are having a true conversation about entrepreneurship and being and doing, I think we have to be honest, especially within our community, is we have to put in the hard work. And we all do it. It's just now we want to position ourselves. We take the hard work and we now transition it into a success story. And I think more and more, the more success stories we have around us, the better it is for all of us, because we need to move past this darkness of, we had the war in Armenia last year, and I know we were all touched by it. But if we're going to survive, we have to position ourselves and strengthen ourselves financially, morally, health-wise, and more importantly, we have to become strategic. Strategy is what's going to win at the end. If we don't have a strategy, we're done, because everybody else around us is operating with a strategy. And that's why this summer I made a point, even though we had the pandemic, I made sure I could take on as many interns. I took on 3 interns. Nice. And if I can motivate one of them to go to law school, then I've done my part. I want to push my agenda on, and the agenda of let's get stronger together rather than let me do it singularly, because that's not going to work anymore.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. And that's part of the reason why I decided to do this show and the podcast, because I wanted to start connecting with others who are working hard to help people and are on a mission to really, be here in this world to benefit others, not just themselves, but ultimately for all of us to connect with one another and raise each other up. Because I think that's one thing that's been lacking in our community a little bit, where, people forget how amazing it could be to get a little bit of help from someone else, a little bit of help from someone else too. And then next thing you know, we're all lifting each other up instead of competing against each other. And I think that's what the war in Armenia, I remember I was really involved in the beginning with a lot of different people, with 2-3 organizations trying to do things. And being in the media industry, I had contacts with a lot of the media networks. So I felt like I was obligated to do a lot, and help raise more awareness about what's going on. But then I came to a conclusion that at the end of the day, it does come to a lot of the things come to the finances. Like when I reached out to some of the media networks, I learned that, certain people had gone there and paid their dues. And that's why the story was on their side versus on the Armenian side. And so then that's when I realized, I said, well, if everything comes down to money and finances at the end, especially when it comes to these political games and wars and all of that, and if media is going to listen to the one that pays the most money, then we as Armenians need to become wealthier. How do we do that? Well, as one entrepreneur, I decided that I'm just going to start supporting other entrepreneurs. I'm just going to help them as much as I can, teach them whatever it takes to help them grow. And hopefully with them, I'll grow too. But I just felt like, what can I do now as a person? How can I attribute to my community, to my society, and set an example so that as we move forward, we all learn how to help each other?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing, because the other thing I realized is we internally, and this is not about, exclusion or inclusion, but we internally within our community, we have such talent, such amazing talent. If we just pause for a split second and just look around us, we have truly amazing talent. We need to nurture that talent and we need to trigger that talent. So what we did internally, for example, I now mandate all across the company, Davana Law Firm in its entirety. When we get a call, any call, and if it falls outside of our practice area, so for example, it's not injury, right? It's not personal injury. It's, let's say somebody needs a real estate attorney,
right?
Or somebody needs a criminal attorney, somebody needs whatever. We've created a list of Armenian attorneys, and I really harassed the Armenian bar about it.
Nice.
Because they were revamping their website to list specialty areas, who practices what. And if we don't have a practice area partnership, we will go to the Armenian bar website, we will pull an attorney, and we make that recommendation, we make that referral, because we have such talent. Why are we looking elsewhere? We have it right here.
Yeah.
So
in our backyard.
That's my new mission as well. I'm meeting with a lot of attorneys in person who practice in different areas, just so I get to know them, so that when I'm doing a referral, I'm more confident about my referral, because again, I'm a people's person. I like to know you before I make the recommendation. And that's a simple change that all of us can make.
That's
right?
it. And look at the difference we can make as a
Yes.
community. We can just become
Yes.
so much more strong.
I mean, this podcast, I called you. I'm like, I'm so proud of you. I saw it. You rock.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What else can we do? And she's like, well, come on down. Let's do a podcast. You know?
No, and I appreciate the support back, and I think if we can all make an impact, and we're setting good examples for the younger generation, like you said, you're bringing on interns and you're hoping to inspire them. I'm sort of trying to do the same thing, not just inspire my team and my interns and whoever else is part of both my companies, but also my listeners and the younger generation who's getting ready or is in school, and for them to know that we're here. If they need advice, they need mentorship, we're here. They can always reach out to us and ask us questions. So I'm happy that you have an internship program, because I do know a few girls around me that are studying law. So I'm going to be sending them your way. And as we get closer to concluding our interview, I just want to again mention how thrilled I am, and I just get so happy to see women like you who are amazing mothers. You have 3 beautiful children and you are killing it. I mean, you're doing so well. I love it. And just again, if people want to reach you, if you can mention again the plug it out, let us know.
Well, I think the best way to reach me, to get to know me, is if you have Instagram, go check us out, Davana Law Firm. And if you want to go to our website, it's davanalaw.com. That's DAVANA law.com. Very simple. Or, we're everywhere. Just reach out, make a point to stop by. I love helping, especially within our community. So thank you for the time.
Thank you.